Alright, this is going to be a tutorial video on how to do a very simple glow modification on basically any butterfly knife. I've only tested on a couple, but they've all worked so far, and I guess the principle stands firm. This one right here is my Balisongs. I've done one side with the glow mod, so you can see what it looks like finished. But I'd figure I'd make a video of me doing the second side. As you can see, there's nothing filled in the holes. So then you guys can learn and just copy it over to the other sides of your knife. Okay, so here's the things that you're going to need. First off, obviously you're going to need a knife that has kind of holes in it. Duh. You also need an X-Acto blade. You'll need some epoxy. This one's just Gorilla. I thought that was a good brand, but I'm really not sure. I know this one works for sure, so if you can get this one, go for it. It's like $5, $6 at Lowe's, so it's not like super pricey. A paintbrush that you're going to have to sacrifice to your butterfly knife. That one's already been caked on with so much epoxy, it's basically hard as a rock. And then, most importantly, some glow powder. This stuff is called V10. It's made by Glow Inc. It is supposedly the brightest you can get, made with grade 0 strontium alumate or something like that. It glows pretty dang bright, and I use their glow paint on my first test of this. This is super bright. As you can see though, it just looks awful. Like, doesn't that just look gross compared to something much more smooth like that? So it's roughly about the same glow. If anything, the paint might take the cake a little bit for brightness, but I might not just be mixing enough glow powder in with my epoxy. And then last couple things, I have plastic cup and something to stir my epoxy with, mix it in, and then, oops, got it over here, just some regular packing tape. Let's get started. What I'm going to do is just cut yourself a wee bit of shape, and then just lay this out like that. The side closest to the camera is the side with the holes. So now we just get our tape, line it up, make sure it touches the bottom first, and then bring it forward. It's hard to see because this tape's invisible, but you're going to see it's not going to want to stick to the inside extremely easy on its own. So I just took this little, the paintbrush that we're going to use, and I'm just kind of flattening itself against the side, making sure it's all creased down. And then this can go extremely wrong if you don't tape it right. You press your tape down with your paintbrush. Grab your X-Acto knife and lay this sucker flat. You're going to want to start at the very edge of the inside, start in the middle, and just lightly run it along. I usually run it along the outside too. And then do the same thing again. Start in the middle and then go this way. The reason I don't want to start at the end is because you might kick up the tape and start unpeeling it, and that's just more work. So, not a fan of more work. This is supposed to be an easy tutorial. So, all cut up. Now, this guy should peel away from my knife pretty seamlessly. We're going to have a little bugger there at the end, but we can just take our X-Acto knife came out. Sometimes when you do tear or do cut, you kind of kick up the paint, kick up the tape a little bit. So again, I just would go over it, especially before you do your cast. Just go over it and just make sure everything is all pressed down flat. All right, looks like we're time to do epoxy. All right, so got my epoxy. Got this glass. It was the same plastic cup. I kind of cut it so it'd be more workable. Doesn't look pretty, but it's going to be tossed in about 5 minutes, so it doesn't need to be pretty. And then, sorry, I'm really clumsy today. And then we got my little plastic fork that's going to mix it. They gave, in most epoxies, they'll give you like a little popsicle, like a fat popsicle stick to mix it with, but I already have a bunch of dried epoxy on there, and it's just not working with it right now. So, measurements. How much do you need? I have no clue. No clue at all. I literally just eyeball it. Try not to have too much left over because a little bit kind of goes a long way. But it's really just an eyeball thing. And as far as how much glow powder to put in, that's your call. I think the more you put in, the brighter it's going to be. But I feel like there is a certain cap where it's just not going to be any brighter. You've already maxed out. So I'm just going to do this. I can't do multiple takes like with the tape. So if this is poorly done, I am sorry. But I really can't afford to mess up because this is probably the most critical part. And timing is key. I only have 5 minutes before it cures, and then the closer and closer I get to that 5-minute curing point, the less adhesive it is going to be, so that it's not going to bond as well to the inside of my handle, which is what I want. So this might be done pretty fast, and I can't do it over again. So if you have any questions, just hit me up and I'll answer it as best of my ability. So, let's see. I have to stay away from epoxy. It's a double-sided thing, so when both sides mix, chemical reaction happens and they form a solid. So I'm just going to start pushing in. To be honest, I'd say that would do it. Got a pretty nice sized puddle. Throwing that in there. Now for my glow powder, I cut a little hole in the bag. I'm just going to that seems legit. Seems like a very healthy amount. I might add a little bit more. Taking my knife. Directions said to mix it for a good 20 seconds. I'm not counting, although I should be. It's kind of getting thick until it looks uniform. I'm trying to scrape it now all into one side. So it'll be easy to dollop. It's good to have a paper towel over off to the side that you can put epoxy filled things in. Got my paintbrush. I hold it over it because it's going to drizzle. Any epoxy that you might get on the sides of your knife, it's not a big deal. That will just come up with your finger later on. I'm just dolloping it in. Anywhere close to the top is fine. I'm not super picky right now. Also, a lot of this can be, if it is on the sides, it can be wiped away. Like that one was a super messy. When I did this from the first side, it was like clinical. I don't think clinical is a word, to be honest. I don't think I should say that. It's going to smell, by the way, too. If you don't want to smell up your house, I would do this in the basement, if you have a basement. I have a little extra, so a little epoxy and glow powder is wasted, but you know what? I'm not too chuffed about that, as long as the stuff's in the hole. For a while, the last time I did this, I had another side project that I wanted to do some glow epoxy with. I just had that kind of chilling off to the side. So now it's not going to want to kind of bond to my paper towel very well. Wherever you can, wipe up. Most people are probably more coordinated than I am and won't spill it all over the place, like I just did. Also, the smaller your paintbrush, the more precise you're going to be with that. I had a fairly decently sized paintbrush because I didn't want to break my smaller one. So after you clean up what you can, preliminary wise, you know, just do what you can. There's not a whole lot you can do to just wet epoxy. Make sure, I kind of like to make sure they're all filled about the same amount. It's going to level off itself because it is a liquid at this stage. And once you think that you cleaned up what you can on the sides, like I said, this will all come off with just a little bit of fingernail. And it's just time to wait. All right, so you've waited a couple hours. Within like an hour or so, as you could see in the video previously, I had spilt a little bit over it, especially in this area. Basically, I got a little bit of epoxy kind of on the handles. So in an hour, it's still kind of mushy in the thinner places. It actually gets solidifies more in thicker places. There's some science behind that, but I don't really know or care. So after about an hour, I got most of it out. A couple places, but it just scrapes off with a fingernail rather easily. Really not much to that. Something that is important, you need to make sure the tape is flush against the very inside of the handles. See, these are closed channel construction, so this right here at this side, sometimes if the tape isn't on, you will have some leakage, and I did on this one. As you can see, it's not exactly as full as the other ones. It kind of sinked a little bit. I cleaned up most of it, but you can see how it was like a glob in there, but I've already cut it away with an X-Acto knife. I'm just going to cut that again, maybe sand it down a little bit. But it should be, it's basically just make sure you have a good kind of pre-game for it, because otherwise it's just not gonna look good. You'll have uneven fillings, and then it's just gonna be more work for cleanup. So that's the basic of it. Get the tape and just focus. Focus. There we go. It may be hard to see, but get the tape like that. Just kind of work it out. Keep frying it as you go. Sometimes it'll stick, the epoxy on the underside will stick to the tape. I haven't had a ton of problems. Once I get a good amount selected, I kind of try to tip it up. And then I tear it. And then that is done. As you can see, it's an old knife. I have some chips in the paint, and it is not 100%. There's still a couple spots of epoxy, but I mean, if you really wanted to, and like, this is a cheap knife. This is Balisongs. Like, also this is like a little midget knife, so it's also not a great flipper. So good thing to test it on. But like, if you have like a real, like a special knife, you can always just tape up your handles so you don't get a bunch of epoxy on them, which would be nice. I didn't really do this for this tutorial, but it's something you can do. So let's go into a dark bathroom and then just see how this guy performs, shall we? This is just low light conditions, so you can see it's kind of bright in low light. Just get the right amount of light for filming in here. I mean, pretty much awesome. I don't have anything to say about it. All right, still a pain to flip because it's still a little midget Balisongs, but at least it glows now, and I'll have a reason to flip it. That about sums up this video. If you guys have any questions, just hit me up on the email, comments, or Instagram. Instagram especially, I'll be quick to get you back because I'm on there all the time. But that about sums it up, guys. Thanks for watching.